Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Laura Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It's 6 o'clock here in the morning, Monday morning, January 3rd. Glad to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. Hope the sound is good because I know that the connection was kind of bad trying to get into the show this morning, so I don't know how it's streaming, so I won't be able to tell until the show is over. So hopefully you can hear what I'm saying. And I did pop the link into the chat room there that I want to continue looking at. And skipped a couple of shows this weekend, and sorry about that. I was had plans to do the shows, and New Year's Day didn't turn out to be all that great of a day. Like I said on I believe it was Friday, I said, there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, and that's everybody's life. Everybody's sort of in the same boat as that, as far as that goes. We all have things coming up in our life that, throw us for a loop, and especially, the reason I want to talk about this morning is because this directly relates to my relationship with my family, and, the fact that I have been, talking quite, publicly about the fact that I'm kind of cutting them off, because they're still very toxic and dysfunctional. They're not bad people. It's just the fact that they refuse to acknowledge what I'm doing. My dad is mentally ill. Every time I have talked to him, this last year and a half, pretty much, because we were not in contact for about 15 years, and just by phone, and periodically throughout the year we would talk to each other on the phone for about 15 years, which I really liked. And then he moved up here to Canada, stayed with me for a year, and that's where our relationship as father-daughter relationship really disintegrated, because I kind of was hoping that things had changed between us, and then found out that they really hadn't, and that he's still very mentally ill and has no intentions on trying to help himself and doesn't think there's anything wrong with his behavior. So that's the issue. So I got a call on Saturday morning from my sister, that was New Year's Day, telling me that my dad had had a stroke and that the lodge where he's staying was trying to get a hold of her because he was in the hospital or something. And so I had just finished kind of doing those shows last week saying, well, I wasn't going to have any contact with them anyway, and was pretty sure in my mind, in my heart, that I was going to cut them off and really just go solo, just for my own peace of mind, right? And it's not that they're bad, like that's what I'm saying. It's not like they're these horrible, evil people. Now, a long time ago, to me, they really were. And not so much my siblings, but my dad, my mom and my dad, right? So, it's a hard road we walk, what I mean? As far as survivors go, it's really harsh. So it wasn't that great of a weekend. And then, so within 15 minutes of that phone call, I actually phoned my sweetheart who's terminally ill and was telling him that I wouldn't be over for New Year's Day, which I planned on spending New Year's Day with him. And he had told me that he had fallen and couldn't get up. I told him he should go to the hospital, really, because he hasn't been all that well. He's terminally ill, right? Kind of heading towards end stage. He's not end stage yet, but he's close, And so then he got upset and he hung up on me because he didn't like the fact that I told him to go to the hospital and wasn't going to come over. But he wouldn't stay on the phone long enough to listen to the fact that I had just got the news that my dad was in the hospital with a stroke. So I thought, okay, I'm staying home and I'm looking after me. Because that news, having the news of my dad having a stroke and my sweetheart falling down and not able to get up, and he knows he needs to go to the hospital, within 15 minutes of each other, that kind of news, I was really upset. And so I thought, no, I'm going to stay home and take care of me, because I was really panicking for a minute, thinking, oh my God, my sister's in. The reason it was upsetting me my dad was in the hospital was that my sister was at an airport in the United States and wasn't able to find out the news and wanted me to phone and find out what was going on. And the thing is I haven't talked to my sister since August, and I haven't talked to my dad since November. And so, I thought, no, I'm out of this. You know what I mean? Like, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm not part of this. I'm not going to be his caregiver. I'm not going to be my dad's caretaker. Like, she's going to have to do it. He trusts her. He doesn't trust me. Loves her, and he just wants his children around him right now because he's 88 years old, and he feels like, he's living his last days. But see, everybody's so sweet. I really know I've been telling everybody here for the last 120 shows or however many shows that I've done here and written my Life of Death Redemption, as well as La Vida Juvies, and explained to everybody just exactly how my dad was. that he hasn't really changed. It's just that he's an old man and he wants his family around him now because he thinks, everybody should just ignore the past and move on. So I mean, that was that message I got from him at Christmas time, was that I should just be able to get over it. He's like, yeah, I didn't talk to him. He just left a message on my phone. You know, Christmas is for families, and you should. And I had no idea my sister was out of the country, see. So he was on his own for Christmas, and that's why he was hounding me, because he didn't want to be by himself for Christmas, and he wanted me to come over. But it's like, he's just codependent, and he just knows that I have my own life, and yet he wouldn't wish me a Merry Christmas. He's just like, you should be able to forgive and forget, you know, and move on. He tells me on the phone, in his phone message. So I was like, oh, brother, forget it. You know, I'm not forgetting anything. I have forgiven, and, you know, I did that on purpose. I did because I would like to be forgiven myself. You know, and I'm working through a lot of stuff, right? So, I mean, everybody knows this as you listen to my shows, but thank you so much for being here. But that was my weekend, right? I mean, I was just like, oh, my God. You know, I got the whole dysfunctional family trying to get me to get involved with this whole issue that my dad's had a stroke, knowing that they haven't talked to me. Like, my bro hasn't talked to me for 5 years, actually over 5 years now. My one brother who's living. My sister, I haven't talked to her since August, and the reason being is that she blew me off last December, a year ago, when I told her I'd been sexually molested by my brother, not the one who's living, my brother who's passed on. And she didn't say anything. And I was waiting for her to say something to me for at least 6-7 months, and she said absolutely nothing to me, except for, do you want to go shopping? Or, I want to go shopping, you know. I wanted her to talk to me about this and help me with this, as far as console me. I mean, she's the older sister. She's 5 years older than me. I know that if I had a younger sister who told me that one of our brothers had molested her, I would have been sitting on the couch with her saying, oh my God, you know, if you want to talk about this, fine. If you don't, I'm just going to sit here with you and, you know, whatever I can do for you. But no, she doesn't care. You know, she doesn't give two hoots what happened to me. You know what I mean? But she wants to go shopping. It's like, no, you go get your own shopping buddies. You know what I mean? Like, that's the whole issue. That's the whole issue with dysfunctional families. It's very, very tricky. We can fall into it if we want to continue to allow ourselves to be used and abused and you know, not treated properly by dysfunctional families. And then there'll be people that say, oh, but you have to restore your relationship. How can you restore your relationship with people who have no intentions on changing the way they feel about you, right? You can't, like, I can't force them to see that what they did was wrong. I can't force my sister to see that what other people in the family had done to me was wrong. She has to want to see that for herself, right? And so that's the whole issue, and that's what I've been talking about here for the last, like, I don't know, since November 2009. So we're talking over a year, and it's very hard. It really is. Like, I had to take this weekend. Actually, I decided to take this weekend for myself. And instead of going out and rushing out and being caregiver to my sweetheart, which I've been for 10 years, and caregiver to a dad who is mentally ill and has no intentions on trying to change his behaviors, when I need to look after myself, I thought, no, this is absolutely ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to calm down, I'm going to relax, and I'm going to take it easy for the next couple of days, because I'm you know, like, I need to look after myself too. Otherwise, you lose yourself, right? You know, if I'm just going to run around and care for other people, especially people I've been caring for the last 10 years, like my sweetheart, you know, he'll be fine. Like, he's on he's just doing his journey. I can't save him. Even if I went over there, there's absolutely nothing I can do. He needed to go to the hospital. That's all there is to it. And as far as my dad having a stroke, my dad's 88 years old. He's not all that well. And I mean, I know this, right? So I never planned on being a caregiver for my dad because of what had happened in the past, and the fact that he's still very, very much abusive to me as far as psychologically goes, right? He can't physically abuse me anymore, you know what I mean? Like, he's too old, and it's just the idea that he has control over my behavior, my thoughts, and but he doesn't anymore because I'm not allowing it, right? But I mean, up until my healing journey 4 years ago, I would say just around 4 years ago, this stuff would have really gotten to him, because he'd have had me freaking out about the fact that he had a stroke. I'm like, you know what? We're all, you know, we have to make our journey. And he has not been good to his children. He really, see, the issue is my dad. If you go back and you listen to my shows, or you read my book, which I hope you will get a copy of it. All the profits are going to Teachers for Abused Children, and that's the way I wanted it to be. And they didn't want that, but I did. And so I wanted all the profits for these 2 books to go to Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. So I hope that you will grab a copy. The fact that my dad did not care that his sons were, because of the way he treated them, and people would disagree, but you know what? No, I was there and I saw it. And I know what he did to my brothers. And that my brothers were living on a here in Calgary, getting rolled and mugged and beat up for their, because they were living these pretty pathetic lifestyles, which they had chosen for themselves. Drug use and major drug use and problems and so a little bit of criminal activity, and one of them anyway. And he did not care about his 2 sons, and neither did my mom. She did not care really that they didn't take any responsibility for what they had done to their sons. Especially my 2 brothers that were on the streets up here. And they just didn't care if they were on the streets, dying, starving. No, it didn't matter to them. And if people would say, like me, I would say, well, you guys could have done a better job, to help them out when they were young, and you could have brought them up better and not treated them so badly, you know what I mean? And they would just sit there and say, well, that had nothing to do with it, and blah, blah, blah. See, my parents did not care. They did not care about their children at all. And even my sister didn't even want to marry this man that she married. He was an abusive turkey, and my mom actually forced my sister to marry him, really. I mean, she could have said no and then just moved out or whatever, but my mom slapped her around at the age of 21 and forced her to marry this guy. I mean, I was in the bedroom. I was there. I saw it. And my mom, my parents did not care about their children. My mom just wanted my sister out of the house and wanted her to get married so that she wouldn't have to deal with her anymore. And my sister was 5 years older than me, so I was 16 years old at the time. Mom was still kicking my ass, too. The whole issue is that, my sister's mind is a little bit more warped than mine because she refuses to acknowledge what happened. She refuses to acknowledge that my mom did what she did to me and to her, or that my dad was the way he was, right? Because she likes to live in a pretend world where everything's good and everything's fine. And, sometimes I wish I could be in that pretend world, but I can't be because I'm not dissociative. And so, for whatever reason, I chose to stay in the here and now and be realistic about everything. But I mean, it's like, my God, and so I got all this garbage that just sort of follows me around as an adult survivor of child abuse. This is the whole issue. I wasn't going to talk about this morning, but then I thought, well, you guys, everybody who's tuning into my shows knows this situation, and this is what's going on, and this is truth, man. And this hurts, and it really does hurt. But as much as that man hurt me, you know what I mean? I guess maybe I'm not doing this on purpose to hurt him, that I wouldn't go and sit and cry over him because he's in the hospital, had a stroke. It's the fact the man, when he was here for a year staying with me in my apartment, made my life miserable. And that's why I wrote my book. That's why I wrote the story, because I thought, no way are you getting away with this, you old man. You're 87 years old, and here you are still treating your children like crap and still expecting that we're going to kiss your ass. And I'm writing a book, and I'm telling it all. Actually, I didn't write a book. I wrote a blog first, and it was called Not So Fond Memories Growing Up in an Abusive Home. And I would come home from work and write this blog every night, blog entries, and just it was public, and I was just letting people know it was there. And I was just like, no way, the world's going to know what this man did, and the world's going to know what my mom did, and the world's going to know what abusers are like and what they do to their children. So I refuse to be silent. I refuse to shut up just because an old man had a stroke. This man was abusive and has no real love in his heart for anyone. But he says, "Oh, but I love my children. I loved my wife." Right? He doesn't know what the meaning of love is. He has no concept because he's mentally ill. Right? And it's not that he's a bad man. See, that's what I'm saying. It's not like that my parents were just. It's not that they meant to do this. It's just the fact that they were mentally ill. They had so many problems, and they would not get help. And they expect us to just pick up the pieces and, oh, it's okay, Dad. It's okay, Mom. Well, see, I did that for 30 years. 29 years. In 29 years, I moved away from them, 2,000 miles away. If you know what I mean? And I was gone. I was like, bye-bye. I take no more of your garbage. I'm done. At the age of 29, and that's in my book. I detail that quite detailed, actually. Because I wanted to get away from them as far away as I could. At the age of 29, I took their crap for 29 years. And I thought, no more will I take their garbage, no more. Well, my mom passed away, so I didn't have to worry about that. And then my dad, living down in the States, 2,000 miles away from me, I was pretty happy about that. And, I only kept in contact with him by the phone, and I saw him a couple of times in that period of time, which was no big deal because it was only for a couple of weeks. But I knew nothing had changed, right? But then when he came to stay with me, I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to build our relationship, and because it had never really been built, father-daughterly. You know what I mean? He's an abusive a-hole. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things. So now he's in the hospital with a stroke, and me as the daughter, I'm supposed to be rallying around, and it's whatever. I'm not going to do that. I've already I've already made up my mind what I'm doing, and that is to really to cut all ties with my dysfunctional family, right? And I will not be going to his funeral. I already said that years and years ago that I would not go to his funeral, and for many reasons, and he didn't care about his sons. He didn't care about any of his children. So why did I show up at his funeral? I refuse. And so I may look like a mean person, but not compared to what he did to us. You know what I mean? And that's where people would say, well, you have to be the better one. You have to be the better person. There's always these people that will try to talk you into doing something that makes you completely uncomfortable. And I refuse to support him because of what he did to my mother. He abused my mother horrifically and treated her like garbage. Like garbage. I mean, she was lower than garbage. She was actually nothing to him. And then when she died, he had a $10,000 funeral with his beautiful casket, and he went around telling everybody, I loved my wife, I miss my wife, I loved her so much. So he could only be good to her in her death. The minute she died, he changed. He was like, oh, I just loved her, I miss her. He almost had a heart attack when she died. And yet he would treat her so badly while she was on the earth, This is a man who hates his family, and yet when they die, he's like, oh, but I loved my kids, I loved my wife. Right. Sure you did. It's because he doesn't want to look like a bad man. Well, you know what, though? He's going to stand before God. He's going to stand before God, and as we all will. And God knows what's going on, and he knows the truth, and, there you go. But the whole issue is I refuse to go to his funeral. You know what I mean? I absolutely refuse. Because this is a man that would hurt his wife, never ever tell his wife that he loved her the whole time that I was alive, living with them, right? It never heard it. They never actually told each other that they loved. My mom never told him that either. It's not like he was the only one, but I don't blame her because he was treating her horribly and forced her to treat him horribly because she was just trying to save her life, you know what I mean? So he was a bad man as far as that goes, you know what I mean? And I'm not going to go pay any respect to him at his funeral. I refuse. And that's my way of saying, you know what, I don't have to respect those people who are ugly and mean and hurtful and abusive that would do something like that to my mother, right? So out of respect for my mother, even though she was my main abuser, I am not going to my dad's funeral, right? And I've already made that very clear. Everybody in the family knows it. And so, it's pretty harsh. So now I've cut off ties, so I don't even want to know if he goes and when he goes because I've cut all ties, see? But that's just my thing, and I hope my dysfunctional family members who are remaining, there's only there's one sister, one brother, and me, will listen. I hope my brother and my sister will listen to these shows, and I hope they will get a good clue as to why I'm not doing it. I hope they will go back and listen to all 515 shows and listen to them all and pay very clear attention. That, this is why I'm doing this. It's not to get even. It's not to be mean. It's not to be hurtful. It's because I am now finally being good and kind to myself and not allowing myself to be around abusive people. So I've cut them off, right? Because I've decided I've had enough and I put my foot down. And so there you go. That's all it stems from, and that's all it's about. It's not that I hate them or I love them. I love them all. As a matter, I used to think that I hated my parents, especially, not my siblings. But I used to think I hated my parents. I used to tell them to their face that I hated them. I talked about that last week on the shows here. And, I thought in my heart that I hated them for years. And then I realized, no, I actually love my parents very much. And it's a sad, sorry state of affairs. I wish I could hate them, but I really don't. I hate what they did. And I absolutely hate what happened to our family. And I hate that it was their responsibility. And the responsibility has to lie where it lies, and that's on my parents' shoulders. They screwed up big time. And there's no way to ever fix it. And my dad even admits that. He says, well, there's no way to fix it. Just don't, we can't live in the past. We need to forgive and forget. And it's like, well, Dad, I don't have to forget nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I won't forget this on purpose because I want to move forward and not just sit around like my sister in denial. You know what I mean? So, it's pretty harsh, pretty harsh what this does to people. But I hope my dysfunctional family will listen to this, and actually, I doubt it. They don't pay attention to anything that I'm doing. See, I could die and it won't matter to them. Like, they won't come to my funeral, guaranteed. But they're all in a crowd around my abuser dad, right? That kind of does burn me up a little bit because, I mean, I could pass away and it won't matter to them. They won't come to my funeral. As a matter of fact, they won't even know because they don't care, right? But yeah, because my sick abuser, mentally ill abuser dad has had a stroke. Everybody's like, "Oh, dad's had a stroke." Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, I really don't. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to his funeral either. No, see, that's the whole issue. They want me to be part of the family, but yet they would never ever treat me like a member of the family. This is how serious this stuff is, and that's why I'm telling you this today. I wanted to talk about this other topic, but we'll get on that tomorrow. But this is exactly it, and I mean, I pinpointed it over the weekend when I sat and thought for a couple of days there about what the issue is, and it's the fact that they want me to be part of this dysfunctional family and crowd around the abuser dad, and yet when it comes to my life, when I pass on, will they be there at my funeral to say anything good about me? No. Have they been here in my life, even though I've been struggling for the last 5 years especially, to help me out, to even just to be, I'm not asking for them to pay for my bills, just to be sitting on the couch having a cup of coffee and chatting with me? Have they been here? No. Right? My brother doesn't even know where I live because he hasn't been over since I moved. So he has no concept of where I live. And it's just like, come on. And I'm supposed to be just rallying around abuser dad as part of the family that nobody cares about about me, right? But I care about me, right? So that's the whole issue. If I didn't care about me, I could continue on like my sister and my brother, just suck it up to an 88-year-old abuser dad, you know what I mean? But see, I care about myself and I've had enough, right? And so that's why I'm doing this, because I know that if my siblings outlive me, they won't come to my funeral. There won't be a funeral. I'll just be cremated or whatever. See, they didn't care about my brothers either. They don't care about anybody but themselves, which is really sad. But the whole issue is that that's what that abusive, dysfunctional stuff does. It separates families, and yet because my abuser dad's had a stroke, everybody's like, "Oh, we have to find out, we have to be there." And it's like, no, we don't. You guys go for it. I'm out. I'm out of the picture. I'm out of the game. I'm done with that. So it's pretty harsh what happens to people. And, we have an obligation, responsibility to ourselves. That if people, if our families are still very toxic and dysfunctional, our immediate families, it's up to you. You know what I mean? I mean, it's up to me whether we choose to let them stay in our lives, right? And, I'm pretty comfortable by cutting the ties, right? Because it's much more better for me if I do cut the ties. If I continue to stay in this circle with them, this dysfunctional, messed up circle, I will continue to get hurt, right? Because not physically, I'm talking emotionally now. Psychologically, emotionally damaged because they're not going to change. And yet I'm on my healing journey, so things are changing in my life, for the better. Things are going quite well now for me, and I talk about this on all my shows, right? Psychologically and emotionally, I mean, I'm in a better place than I've ever been in my entire lifetime. But that's because I'm working through this stuff, right? But if they're not going to be part of it, if they're not going to be part of that change, then I'm just going against the grain with them, because they don't care that I've been on this healing journey and really don't care that I was even suffering in the first place. And they'll tell you that to your face if you were to ask them, for sure. I told my sister December a year ago, that my brother had molested me, and she just sat there. She didn't say anything. And then I talked to her a few times throughout the year because she wanted to go shopping. Let's go shopping. It's like, no, I don't want to go shopping, man. I just told you something that was so devastating to me, and I really needed your support on it. And you want to go shopping? I mean, it's like, whatever, Like, and I'm supposed to just deal with that? I'm supposed to just be like okay with that? No, that's not cool. Because that's what I was saying at the beginning of the show. If I had a younger sister who came to me and said, "Look, one of our brothers molested me when I was a child, sexually abused me," I would be like, "Oh my God. Are you okay?" Like, I had no idea. Like, can we talk about, like, if you want to talk or if you don't want to talk, but I'm here, man. You know what I mean? She would not even acknowledge it. It's just like, oh my God, talk about somebody who's able to live in some sort of denial fantasy world. My God. And it may be that she doesn't believe it. That's fine, whatever. She can not believe it if she wants to. The whole issue is that if I had a younger sister that said that to me, I'd take it very seriously and I would believe her. Who goes around saying stuff like that? I wish that my brother did not molest me. Actually, it could have been my dad. I'm not sure. But I'm pretty sure it was my brother because of what he said to me before he died. And so, the more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, he had long hair. My dad didn't have long hair. So the more I think about it, the more I can picture, the memory in my mind is somebody has long hair. That would have been one of my brothers, right? And I think I know which one because he said to me he said to me that, a few things that actually led me to believe that it was him. You know what I mean? So, I kind of think, well, maybe it wasn't my dad, but I used to always think it was my dad because I hated my dad for a long time. And my dad was sexually abusive. So I talked about this on Friday's show if you want to go listen to that. But anyway, so that's the whole issue. Now, it's just this is how the weekend went. So I had to skip a few shows. I did skip a couple of shows there. Sorry about that. But I really needed to take time to process this stuff, right? Because all of a sudden the family was like, haven't talked to me for 5 years, and my sister hasn't talked to me all year. Now they're like, oh, you got to rally around abuser dad. Dad's had a stroke. We got to be there for him. It's like, no, do we really? You guys can. You're still just as dysfunctional as he is. You go ahead and stick it out. I'm done with that. You know what I mean? So I haven't talked to them, and I refuse to. I'm cutting them all off, and I'm not even going to. I think what I'm going to do is I'm not even going to talk to them on the phone and tell them I'm cutting them off because they will not understand. I'm just going to send them all a letter, just a short letter to explain that they are out of my life. That's it. Done. They don't have to be responsible for me. I don't have to be responsible for them. I'm done. I'm on my healing journey. I'm going to have a good life, and they can just continue on and not have to be concerned with what Lori's doing, because I know this bothers them. This whole thing bothers them, that I've gone public with the story. And I'm sure that most people, anyone who has gone public with their story, with talking about the abuse that they suffered as children, could probably totally relate to what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? It's hard because the rest of the family, if they know about it, generally, some of them may or may not support you. And right now I have no support from any of them as far as this goes. You know what I mean? So, and they don't care that my sweetheart's terminally ill. Nobody cares. I mean, he could have died already and they wouldn't have even known because they aren't in contact with me. And yet they want me to rally around my abuser dad. Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, he's had a stroke. He's 88 years old. Like, whatever. He's never been decent to me, ever. So why should I go flying over there all upset? Oh, poor dad. It's like, no. It's like, no, you can't. There has never been a relationship between me and my dad. We've never had it. We've never had that closeness. We've never had that relationship. Neither have they. But they're still playing this dysfunctional game that we all used to play back when my parents both were living with our parents, which was a lot of trauma, a lot of BS, right? Because my parents were so incredibly twisted and sick. Every day was trauma with those guys. I mean, every day was a traumatic event. And every day was a crisis, right? Now, because this is a crisis, my dad's had a stroke. So done with that dysfunctional family. Thank God I don't want to like halfway or some point in my lifetime where I still have years ahead to move forward and move on and heal and get away from that. You know what I mean? And I'm so happy to be on this side of it. Let me tell you what. If you're suffering with this kind of stuff, man, make sure that you get help. And if you need to talk to somebody and I'm not around, or somebody that you know is not around that you trust, a good friend, or somebody, then you phone a crisis line or you phone somebody and you get some help, right? You so deserve so much better if you're having to deal with this, and you sure did. We certainly never deserved any of this garbage. And it isn't our fault that our families and parents were mentally ill and were abusive. That is not our fault. And so, for me, I had to cut them off. That doesn't necessarily work for everybody, and not everybody would want to do that. You know what I mean? It's just something that I have to do for my own peace of mind and for my own mental health, right? So, just take care of yourselves, everybody. I'll be back on tonight, a couple of shows, Dreamcatchers Talk Radio, as well as Child Abuse Prevention and Human Rights Abuse Prevention is up to us. And then I'll be back on tomorrow morning, same time, same place. We'll continue looking at post-abuse vulnerability on mentalhealth.net. That's where we left off. So I just wanted to give everybody a rundown of what's been going on, because this is very serious stuff, and this all really is what's going on in my life right now, as far as my healing journey goes, you know what I mean? So it's not every day is not a good day, and not every day will be a good day. But if you have a hard time and you can't cope, you make sure that you phone somebody, and if that has to be a crisis line, then that's what you do, right? Reach out to somebody, counselor, therapist, crisis line, whatever you have to do. But you make sure you take care of you, because you sure deserve so much better. And no one can do it for you but you, right? No one can help me but me. I really have to be the one to say, okay, do I need a counselor? Do I need a therapist? Do I need to call a crisis line? Because whatever it is, I'm responsible, and I need to be able to look after myself. And if we need help doing that, then that's all there is to it. You make sure that you get that help, right? Take care, everybody. Have a really good day. I hope that your day is a lot better than mine has been over the weekend, and I really hope that your New Year starts out a whole lot better. And just wish you all the best, and we'll be talking to you again real soon. Take good care. Bye bye.